Hi, everybody. I am Lisa Torgerson. I'm the Director of Leisure Travel Services for Travelex International. And today I have partnered with Lisa Bain and Lindblad Expeditions, which is one of our favorite adventure partners. And I think I thought we would talk a little bit about what actually expedition travel is, because I think people have different definitions. So we want to make this as informal as possible. So there's a chat box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free during the course of the presentation, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in there, and I will interrupt Lisa and she'll answer them as we go along. So Lisa, go ahead and take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. And thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. Before I can talk about what exactly an expedition is and where we go, we have to take a little bit of a step back and talk about how we started. And this gentleman you see here is Lars Erik Lindblad. And Lars was an explorer in his own right back in the 60s, early 60s, late 50s. And he was already starting to see these remarkable places that he was visiting, suffering from wildlife loss and loss of environment. And so he really took a step back and said, how do I ensure that my grandchildren have the chance to see these? And he realized the only way to do that was to take fellow travelers with him, explain what they were seeing, educate them so that they would come back as a passionate voice for the preservation of the places they were visiting. He was actually the very first person to take guests to Antarctica in 1966. If you think about that, that's not that long ago that the very first guests went to Antarctica. And then he took the very first guest the following year to the Galapagos in 1967. And so today he is seen as the father of small ship expedition travel. And his son, Sven Lindblad, has been at the helm of the company now for over 40 years. And one of the things he has done is set up some really remarkable relationships and alliances. And the one people know us best for is our alliance with the National Geographic Society. And so that means that we assist the society through our Lindblad National Geographic Fund, which helps to put money back into the places that we're exploring to support local endeavors to care for the marine environment, to care for wildlife, but also culturally sensitive areas. And it ensures our guests have amazing access to really cool data and knowledge through our expeditionary teams. And our teams, although this photo seems to look like we all have beards when we're on expedition, we really don't, the girls don't. But our expedition teams are really passionate about the places we go to. They have PhDs and they've studied there. But I think the most important thing for any expeditionary team is their good graces, their ability to communicate at all levels, but also their excitement. I mean, you have people here who have traveled with us for 30, 40 years as expedition leaders. And to this day, you would swear it was their first experience in the destination, just because of how excitable and passionate they are about the places. And it includes ornithologists, botanists, marine biologists, ethnomusicologists in some places. And it's about ensuring our guests get to see the seldom seen, the most remarkable of the places that we visit. And that includes on many of our trips an underwater dive team. And that underwater dive team is able to showcase that marine biodiversity beneath us and really ensure that our guests get that 360-degree view of the places we're visiting. Because when you're on a ship, 50% of the experience is beneath you. And a lot of people don't realize that. So we want to ensure that marine biodiversity is shared with all of our guests. And the other thing is, over the last 50 plus years, we've created some really remarkable, cool tools for exploration. So the ways that we can actually get our guests out to explore, from hydrophone so we can hear whale song, to video microscopes to look at the plankton count in the water surrounding us, remote operated vehicles that can go down 1,000 feet and beam back live footage. We have a videographer on all of our expeditions, and that videographer's job is to film just that departure and ensure that our guests can take home this National Geographic quality DVD. Zodiacs, these are the workhorses of expeditionary travel, get you out to land on those really remote beaches. Kayaks and paddleboards. That actual kayak photo is in Antarctica 2 years ago. That's a 40-foot minke whale with that couple. So here's one of the really key things about expedition. Dinner can wait. If you have that kind of experience in a location, that's why you're there. We're not rushing you off because, oh, no, 4 o'clock, got to be back at the ship for the afternoon tea. The reason you're there is for interactions like this. So we want to make sure we make the most of every minute in the field. And photography is a big part of that. This is Flip Nicklin from the National Geographic. On our key ships, we have National Geographic photographers, and we have our Lindblad certified National Geographic photographers on all of our other ships. And their job is to help you get the best shots of your life, be it on an SLR or on your iPhone. We actually do cell phone focused classes, because so many of our guests just use their cell phones now, and you can get remarkable images just on your phone. We also have an agreement with B&H Photo out of New York, and we have a photo locker on nearly all of our ships now, and that has stocked with state-of-the-art equipment, 600mm zoom lenses, mirrorless camera bodies, but you can check those out at night and use them for the day, just so you can trial some new equipment and see what it's like to use. Global Explorers, this was put together with National Geographic Education about 3 years ago. Always had a focus on family, but this program is in all of our Galapagos, Alaska, and Baja. Really allows our under 18-year-old guests to work on that explorer's outlook on the world. They get to do scientific experiments. They get to drive a Zodiac. They have this amazing book that they're given as they come on board, their field notebook. And so they cover their entire trip by blogging and taking illustrations and checking off wildlife. It's just a brilliant way for families to connect out in the wild. Sustainable cuisine, this is a really big thing for us. I kind of get the giggles when I hear people right now talking about, oh, we're now doing sustainable produce. We've done sustainable produce since the day we started over 50 years ago. For us, by buying local, you are supporting local communities. And the more money we can put back into those local communities, the better. But it also means that you are tasting and really getting the flavor of the places you're visiting. And that adds a whole new layer to the experience. And so in all of the places we go, we try to ensure our food is bought locally and provided locally. I always get the question, who goes on an expedition? You know, these are inquisitive people. They don't want to just zoom past it. They want to understand what they're seeing. They want to learn about it. But it is not like being back at university. We're not force feeding you information. It is the ability to ask questions and really be engaged in a location. And we have solo travelers, dedicated solo cabins. We have a share program if you want to make a new friend and travel with them. We do lots of multi-generational families, lots of nuclear families. I mean, it runs the gamut, and it runs the gamut from ages 5 to 95. I mean, it really does. An explorer, someone who's inquisitive, expedition isn't an age group, it's a state of mind. And so, you know, I'll often be asked the question, well, you know, that word expedition, it's a little scary. You're going to make me march up a 6-mile walk to the top of an active volcano. There are options if you want to do that with us in Galapagos, but at the same time, there's a short walk along the beach with a National Geographic photographer, or you can just go kayaking. So every day there are options, and you push yourself as far as you want to push yourself. So it's totally up to you how you engage in the destination. But the most important thing is you bring your sense of humor, because the best thing about expeditions is sometimes when a day's activities or a destination all goes to hell in a handbasket and we have to come up with a whole new day. That's true exploration and expedition. They're our most fun days. We have an open bridge policy on all of our ships. This ensures that, you know, you have the best seat in the house. Get up there, best wildlife spotting, spend time with the captains, learning and understanding how it's like to traverse these amazing oceans. From a sustainability standpoint, we have been carbon neutral now for several years. Carbon neutrality is great, but you have to continually work to lower your carbon footprint as well. So it's all well and good to say you're carbon neutral and offset, but you should always be working to improve upon that. The other thing is we're single-use plastic free. That means we have no single-use plastics on our ship, and we're actually working with our supply chain to help them become single-use plastic free as well. We talked about our sustainable cuisine, and we actually have a self-disinfecting fleet, believe it or not. We did that last year before all this hit. But it ensures that all of our fleet uses a photocatalytic spray that goes on every surface and kills virus on contact. It's really cool. And we do everything from these really small, intimate ships. So our biggest ship is 148 guests. So think about that. That's guests, not cabins. And we go all the way down to really intimate ships of 100 guests or 28 guests in the Amazon. So it really is about fellow travelers, a community of like-minded guests. And then we have an amazing new ship, and I'll talk a little bit more about her in a little while because she has that funky front, which is that pointy nose, which makes her very, very unique. And that's the National Geographic Endurance. So what I wanted to do is skip through a few of our favorite places. There are a lot, so I'm not going to talk about them all, otherwise we'd be here for a couple of hours or more. But one of the key ones, of course, is Antarctica. This was our first place we went to. It is a remarkable location. We visit the peninsula, which is this piece that's pointing out here on the top left corner. And we cross that Drake Passage to get down. I just want to share a little bit of the feeling of Antarctica with you.
Kilos. And they're still here, they're just over there. It's just like pure curiosity because we are, enrichment in their environment. This is their world. Oh my goodness. Oh, behind me. Yeah, these animals are coming here to take an experience from us, That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Yeah. And they're killer whales. Yay.
So what I love about that is that's one of our PhDs who studies killer whales 24/7. That's how excited she still gets when she sees a killer whale. And I think that's what makes it so remarkable. But our captains are the best ice captains in the world. Actually, our head captain helped to set up the International Association of Antarctic Tour Operators that regulates travel into Antarctica. It is all about having teams that can keep you safe, know these areas intimately, and can really traverse that amazing peninsula and get us into the places we want to visit. But it is about the diversity, the ice, the wildlife. And the one thing I'll say to you is Antarctica in itself is 4 very different months. So we're there from end of October to end of February. And in that time, it changes quite a bit. You're still going to see penguins and seals and whales and ice. But early season, when you head down onto the peninsula, is a little different to late season. And this just gives you an idea of where we're situated, coming into Ushuaia, across the Drake Passage, and down to the peninsula. Early season, lots of sea ice, the opportunity to walk on a frozen ocean. We do cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. All of that is included. That's the other thing about an expedition. A real expedition by its name includes all of that stuff. It's not an add-on pricing. You get to do your cross-country skiing and your snowshoeing and your hiking and your paddleboarding, all that's included. But early season is when you get the chance to do all of those kind of activities. And there's nothing better to say to someone who's a big skier, oh, well, I've skied Antarctica. Beat that. It is pretty cool. And it is the wildlife. You're going to see penguins, as I said, all throughout the season. But if you want to see young penguins, you want to see when they're on the nest, you need to be there the end of November and into December when the chicks are born towards the end of December. That's when you're going to see chicks. You're going to see penguins throughout, but if you want to see chicks, December is the time to go. You're going to see seal life throughout. You've got Weddell seals and leopard seals. Leopard seals are really, really cool. Leopard seals actually don't just eat fish and penguins, but they eat a lot of krill. And they have these teeth that look like sticks of broccoli that they push together, and then they push the water out through their teeth and it keeps the krill in their mouth. They're just really interesting animals to get up close to. If you're into whales, whales start to mass for the migration out of Antarctica in February. So there's less ice towards the end of the season, but the whales start to build up. And also because there's less ice, you can push further down across the Antarctic Circle if the ice allows it. So it depends what you want to see. So make sure you reach out to Lisa and Kim and talk about what it is you want to get out of that Antarctic journey so you get the most out of it. And we're able to deliver on our promise to you.
Did anyone check the latitude this morning?
south the ship has ever been. Certainly the furthest south this boat has ever been. And obviously a lovely day. So the plan for today, there's a really massive, beautiful tabular iceberg just off the stern here. Did you see it from your cabin? We're gonna go take a quick tour of that. It has been calving a bit this morning, so we'll be sure to stay far, far away from it. After that, we'll go into the pack ice here. See some beautiful icebergs up close. But you never thought you'd be a sunglass model in Antarctica.
It's gorgeous. It's breathtaking. Just mind-boggling.
So today we were able to go further south than we ever had done in the past in the Margaret Bay. And it's not only Lindblad expeditions, it's so that none of our competitors, none have been that far south on the peninsula. Margaret Bay is very remote, and it's often lots of sea ice. And it's there's only about every third season or so it's open up.
Fabulous view here, just stunning scenery all around us. I really don't have words to describe it. I'm kind of gobsmacked right now.
I mean, it's just a spectacular place, and I would have been excited just going where, you know, everyone else kind of goes, but coming here is just unbelievable and such a cool experience.
This is very important to be able to do with a lot of exploration. It's challenging, but also important because we do true expeditions. And then when it's ideal conditions and we have the time, we go and explore because that's our main mission, exploration.
I love that. That's our main mission, exploration. That's Captain Leif Skog, who is our main captain. And that really is what it's about. We are not held by time schedules that say we have to be here or we have to be there. We are led by the wildlife and the experience. And so that allows for a much more casual approach and the opportunity to really take advantage of wildlife as we see it. A longer trip, not just crossing down to the peninsula, would be the peninsula, South Georgia and the Falklands. And the South Georgia is really known as the Serengeti of the Southern Ocean. This is where we're talking about 100,000 king penguins on one beach, elephant seals, albatross overhead, sheer noise and sound, smell, great smell early in the morning, but it is a remarkable place. And so if you can spend the extra time, the 21 days to get out to see South Georgia, it really is one of the most spectacular places on this planet. I just love the music behind that. I love penguins. And so, you know, for us, Antarctica is not just the wildlife, the history. Think of Shackleton and Scott and Morse and all these amazing men that went to the far reaches of the planet. And now you have the chance to go down there, visit Shackleton's grave, have a nice glass of scotch, and then return to a state-of-the-art vessel. And, you know, there's always the question about how rough is the Drake Passage. These ships are built for the Drake Passage. It's known as the Drake Lake or the Drake Shake. We don't want to hit weather if we can help it either. I mean, we have amazing systems on board to avoid weather, but these ships are specifically built. And the new one that I was talking about, the National Geographic Endurance, because that pointy nose you see, it's called an X-bow. So instead of doing this in rough weather, she cuts through the base of the wave for a very stable, calm ride in rough weather. And she's also the highest rated ice ship that's been built so far. And she is an ice class 5. So the smaller the ice class number, the better. But she is only 126 guests, and she'll spend her time in the poles from the Arctic to Antarctic. So kind of going to another cooler place, but not quite so far away. And we're going to quickly work our way down the west coast of North and South America. But for us, Alaska is about small ship. And I love this photo because it kind of explains to you who we are. You look at those two big ships down there. Now look to the middle, and there's a tiny little ship. That's us. That's how we explore Alaska. We want to have an intimate experience. Once we leave Sitka or Juneau, we want to avoid other people as much as possible. We want to be in those narrow little inlets the opportunity to get out in the zodiacs, the kayaks, the paddleboards, be able to get up close to the whales, spend the time as long as we can with them, and really experience this remarkable destination. And the beauty of Alaska, I think from being up there, people always think about the big animals in Alaska, but Alaska really is about the very small things as well. And I think that's one of being able to travel with an expedition team. I was on board with a woman who has a PhD in lichen and moss. I wasn't even aware that you could do a PhD in lichen and moss, but her expertise in really opening up our eyes to what was beneath our feet was quite remarkable. And I've got a couple of photos coming up here, but we're in this amazing coastal area of Alaska between Sitka and Juneau for many of our departures. We also do the coast all the way down to Seattle, but this is just such a remarkable place. And to be able to come into a narrow little inlet early in the morning and be surrounded by otters and their young, to get into the kayaks, to be going ashore and all of a sudden have a humpback come up about 15 feet away and spout. I mean, it is just a remarkable place. And then the sheer number of wildlife, from seals to eagles. There was one area we came through and there were so many bald eagles in the trees. They look like white Christmas ornaments. It is just a remarkable place. And I think so often people go and they're on a bigger ship and they miss the intimacy of the wildlife experience that Alaska can offer. And I would say to you, that's what makes Alaska special. It's being close up, being able to sit there and just take it all in, from the ice, from the calving glaciers, being able to understand the cultural component of the region, and just to get out and explore. This was on the day that we were out with our PhD in lichen and moss, and we actually got down on the grass, pulling the grass apart, and the amount of little white orchids and little flowers and insect-eating plants within about a square inch of ground. I mean, it's just remarkable. And so the kids that were on the ship, I mean, you think the big things were what they were after. We spent probably 2 or 3 hours just going through all these remarkable little plants and areas and looking for where the beaver were cutting into the trees. And it was just remarkable. Now, as we head down the coast, actually this year we introduced a new itinerary, which is the Spirit Bears on the coast of British Columbia. One thing I'll say about expedition, which is really important, you go to these places and you're extremely lucky to have access to them. So just being there is the experience. The icing on the cake is when you get the chance to see something like a spirit bear. So this itinerary offers otters and brown bear and amazing wildlife and pods of killer whale. These guys, if we have the great honor of seeing them, is really very unique. And, you know, we've had very good luck over the last couple of years. So this year we decided we'd do a specific trip and we're rather excited about it. We then head down the coast. We go to British Columbia and the San Juan Islands. This is such a cool little itinerary because it's city life and cultural components and wildlife. So Victoria is such a beautiful city. If you're into gardens, if you're into museums, it is an amazing place to visit and be guided. We then get the chance to go up to Alert Bay, and that's the Kwakwaka people, and we get the opportunity to learn about their cultural identity through dance, through their carvings, through their history, but then also that wildlife component as you come back down the coast with the resident orcapods and the other wildlife. From there, we do Columbia and Snake River, and Lisa and I were talking. This is a really remarkable area that a lot of people don't think of. And I think now that we're kind of stuck at home a bit more and it's a little closer, it's one place you should think of. But this region along the Columbia and Snake Rivers has a lock system which actually rises you up higher than the Panama Canal, which is pretty cool, right? And we're there in the spring and the fall. So we're there at planting season, and then we're there again at harvest season. So you kind of have to think, what do you want to get out of this? The early season with the flora coming out, or the fall season when you have those amazing harvests. But this is a really geologically rich area. The Palouse Falls are one of the most spectacular fall regions that you'll get the chance to see. We go up there in our Zodiacs. Lots of opportunities for kayaking, going through the lock system. That's a time when everyone comes out on the front deck, glass of wine, has the chance to go through this lock system. And as I said, it really is about the food and beverage of this region. And our sustainable cuisine, Alaska and the Columbia and Snake are perfect for this. The local producers, the growers, the wineries, local beer, it just makes a difference to be able to have them aboard to learn from their experience in the region. From there, we head even further down the coast south. Now we're off the coast of Los Angeles, where we do the Channel Islands. This is a remarkable trip that's going to take you all the way from the Channel Islands National Park down the coast through Ensenada, Isla San Benito, down to Baja Magdalena, around and through to Isla Perdida and into La Paz. And I'm showing you this map because I'm going to talk about these areas because we do some of these as specific destinations as well. But this is such a beautiful cross-section of all things Baja. From wildlife, you've got amazing wine growing areas along this coast as well that we get the chance to go to. Very rich in marine biodiversity, some good whale watching as we head down. And then we also get the chance to spend time just in a place called Baja Magdalena or Magdalena Bay. And this is where gray whales come to give birth. It's very shallow, it's protected. So the mums give birth to their young. And this is where we have the chance to go out in our kayak or in our Zodiacs. And if we're very, very lucky, the mothers will actually push their babies to the surface to interact with us. So just being in their presence is a gift in itself. But if you are lucky enough that a mother will push her baby alongside one of the Zodiacs and you get the chance to reach out and give them a bit of a scratch, gray whales, you can't harm them by scratching them. None of the germs on our hands will cause issues for them. They just love being scratched. They're very tactile. And so to be that close to them is really, really cool. The one thing I tell you is everyone loves that when they spray and they've got that spray of water. I can tell you it's not water, it's actually snot. And so, it's a really unique experience to be right next to one of those. But one of the research programs they're doing down there now is they used to have to take core samples or samples of the whale to be able to figure out how healthy they were. Now they can actually fly a drone with a petri dish through the whale blow, and they get so much information from that blow that tells them the sex, how healthy they are they with calf. It's just really cool what's going on down in Baja. But the sand dunes and just the opportunity to get out. La Paz has the most beautiful fiesta for us every time we're in town. The music, the food, the sounds of Baja, California, and then just the sheer numbers of dolphin pods in the thousands. And you're on a Zodiac riding through these huge pods of dolphins. The different whale species from the gray whales out on the coast, going inland. Every now and then, if we're really lucky, we'll see a blue whale down on the point of Baja, but up into the Sea of Cortez for false killer whales, Bridie's whales, amazing bird life. And we do have specific departures in all of our destinations, which are photographer focused. So if you're a keen photographer, we do have ramped up teams on specific departures, just something to be aware of. But it is just a remarkable place. And so just pristinely beautiful. One of my favorite times down there is we always have our barbecues on the beach, and you get a chance to sit back, have a drink, great food, great camaraderie, but to look up at that amazing sky with no light pollution, it's just one of the most remarkable places to visit and not far from home. And so we've talked about coming down the coast. We kind of have a lot of other places, so I promised I'd just touch so you know where we go. The Galapagos, we've been there since 1967. Actually, Lars-Erik Lindblad paid the wages of the first two park rangers to ensure the park was established. He was so passionate about these islands, the archipelago. And this is 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador, so easy to get to, remarkable from a wildlife perspective. Every island is different. from a geological standpoint to a wildlife standpoint, from dry and arid to lush and green to black ribbon lava to red beaches to white. It is just a remarkably beautiful place. So to be able to spend a full 7 days out there exploring and waking up on a new island is really the way to do it, because you get that diversity of that endemic wildlife, both above and below the waves. The Arctic, we've been up here for over 45 years now. You know, Svalbard with the polar bears in the season, Franz Josef Land, Iceland with its roaring waterfalls and its amazing Viking history, the coasts of Norway, all up and down the coast of Norway, Greenland. We also do the Russian Far East. We go all the way over Russia from Tromsø to Nome. That's all the way up through that Russian high Arctic. You know, we've got one boat that, this is a charter, a boat that we have under Lindblad, which is called the Sea Cloud. If you're a sailor, this particular ship is Marjorie Merriweather Post's original sailing vessel. It takes 16 young men and women to scamper up and drop sail every time we want to go under full sail. It is a remarkable experience to be on one of these old schooners. And she does the Caribbean, which is nice and close to home, but she also does the Greek Isles and things further afield. But if you love to sail and feel that creaking of wood beneath you and that old world feel of sailing, nothing can beat the Sea Cloud. She is really quite remarkable. Costa Rica, Panama, Belize and Guatemala, the South Pacific Islands, the Marquesas Islands, which are absolutely stunning, Easter Island, all out through that region that we explore. Great snorkeling and diving in all of those locations through the South Pacific. Egypt, the Mekong, and I'm just touching on a few of the places we visit. But this last little video is just going to be a chance to kind of capture all the places we go, and then I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. And trust me, we can't wait to get back out there. So I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any, Lisa.
Okay, I don't see any. So as a reminder, if you do have questions, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat box. Go ahead and type in a question, and Lisa will be happy to answer it. I think you did a good job. Nobody had any questions.
It's always, it takes that one person to ask a question, then everyone else goes, ooh, I want to ask one. that one brave soul to ask a question.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that we, you know, like everybody else, we are hoping to be out sooner than later back into the wild. I mean, that's where we belong. I think one of the really important things with companies like Lindblad is we put so much money into the preservation of the places we visit that it's important that we're there to care for them. So, you know, the longer we're away, you know, we really want to get back out there and support these amazing places as quickly as possible.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment from someone that said it was perfect.
Ah, well, thank you, whoever someone was. That's wonderful. Thank you. Look, you know, I find that people get a little bit nervous when they hear that word expedition, right? But you shouldn't be. It really is an opportunity to get up close and really experience places like you would never have the opportunity to do. And I think it's always remarkable when you hear the person who's done it for the first time. They're on the ship and they're like, you know, I'm not sure, you know, please don't make me do something I don't, you know, I don't want to do. And then all of a sudden they come back from kayaking in Antarctica and they go, you know what, I would never have thought I would do that. And I am just so proud of myself that I got out there and accomplished something so outside my comfort zone. So I think, you know, the world is a wondrous place, and the opportunity to get out and truly explore it should really be taken while we can.
There is a question. Someone is asking how many passengers on the Alaska cruise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on our two ships, it's 100 guests, brand new vessels. They were actually built in Washington State and launched in 18 and 19, the Quest and the Venture. So those are 22 balcony suites, expedition suites, connecting rooms for families. They're beautiful small platforms. And we have two older vessels, the Seabird and Sea Lion, at 62 guests that do some shorter, more active trips, have a huge following. So, you know, we just don't seem to be able to get rid of them, but people love them. But they're a little smaller in 62 guests. But yeah, nice intimate size up in Alaska.
And another question is, how do your ships handle pollution possibilities?
Yeah, so we work extremely hard. So on our website, and I can forward that to you, Lisa, so you can share with everyone that has attended today. Look, whenever you're taking a vessel anywhere, there's always that push and pull with all of us of, you know, you have to take a very gentle step. So our engines are designed to have the least impact as possible. All of our lighting has been replaced on our ships, on our older ships, and all of our new ships are built with lighting that draws less electrical power. One of the things we talked about was that single-use plastic. The reason we went to self-disinfecting ships originally was also from an environmental standpoint when it comes to removing plastic bottles. There's a lot of waste when you've got lots of spray bottles and people walking around cleaning. And so when we introduced our photocatalytic system on board, and it requires just one spray of the entire ship, that cut down a lot of plastic. And so we're continuously looking for ways to lessen our footprint throughout our fleet, but work extremely hard recycling grey water, making sure that, you know, we're recycling on board for glass and metal. But yeah, it's something we take extremely seriously.
Perfect. I don't see any more questions, but if you happen to think of a question after our presentation, by all means, feel free to reach out to myself or any one of our team at the office. We'd be happy, if we don't know the answer, to get it for you. I have Lisa's personal email, so she's always available, which is great. Yeah. So, well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us, and also for the rest of you that joined us and spent some time with us. We truly do appreciate your time, and it's nice to dream virtually, but I'm ready to get back out there, as I'm sure many people are.
It was a joy. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.